Smart 24, driving business.
A very good evening to everybody watching Smart 24 TV. A warm welcome once again. This is the business edition where we're going to have a look at the stories that made the headlines. If at all you missed this, you have the chance now to look at the stories that you missed. My name is Pedison Mumbere. Stay around. I'll be right back in just a bit. A warm welcome once again. This is the business edition and it starts now. Like he said, the president of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, traveled to Acholi region where he commissioned the Acholi Zonal Industrial Hub. This hub is going to create jobs for the youth as the way of empowering the youth in the region. Our reporter Samuel Chimuda was on ground and let's have what he had to compile for us.
According to the Multidimensional Poverty Index 2022 report, Acholi sub-region has the second largest number of poor people in the country, with 63% of its people living below the poverty line. President Museveni has expressed optimism in the new force of the youth that have been skilled under his initiative of the Zonal 2 industrial hubs across the country. The president vows to support the youths financially in order to create wealth and fight poverty.
I've been telling you that Dongrobo is ours. But Lonyo is mine. If I have got some young, they are mine. If I've got some coffee, it is mine. If I've got some fruits, it is mine. But your maber is ours. And what would cure poverty in your home?
The president encouraged them to promote the Buy Uganda Build Uganda program by buying locally made products in order to promote employment or income recovery from the colleagues who are skilled. He also recommended them to form circles.
A liter of ice cream is 8,000. A liter of milk in Gulu is 2,000 shillings. So you can know the reason why we are doing ice cream.
According to the president, the initiative fits well in the 4 sectors of wealth creation, which he has been preaching about since 1986, which include commercial agriculture, industry manufacturing services, and information communication technology. Andrew Barije, Samuel Chirimunda, Smart 24.
Yeah, that's the president of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, traversing those areas. And that very hub that he has just commissioned there is going to create jobs. And most of the youth are going to be empowered over there. Now, government civil servants and appointed leaders in government are going to declare their wealth to the IGG Betty Kamya. That's the Inspector General of Government. Now, she warned any servant that if you're going to dodge this service, you're going to face it rough, like some repercussions over there. Is that going to be possible? Let us have our reporter with the details.
Article 233 and 234 of the Ugandan Constitution and Section 4 of the Leadership Code Act mandate that political and appointed leaders disclose their income, assets and liabilities to the Inspectorate of Government every 2 years in the month of March. The previous declaration occurred in 2021. A repeat occurrence in 2023 is likely to happen. This implies that all elected political officials from LC5 to the President, as well as the heads of the judiciary, judges, magistrates, inspectors of courts, and many others. The event will begin on March 1st and end on March 31st of this year.
This exercise will be launched on Wednesday, the 1st of March 2023 in Lira City and will be presided over by the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, who will in fact be the first declarant this declaration year.
Patricia Achan, the Deputy Inspector General of Government, stated that declaration of wealth by leaders demonstrates good governance and shows that our leaders are transparent and accountable of their wealth.
And the purpose of this basically is to promote accountability and a principle of public trust, because when you look at the Constitution in Principle 26 of the National Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy, it provides that all offices, all public offices are held in trust for the people, which means that all power and authority must be exercised for the benefit of the people.
Furthermore, substantial penalties are linked to the law for declaring violations such as non-declaration, under-declaration, over-declaration, fabrication of facts, and anticipatory declaration. Such penalties include fines, dismissal from office, and confiscation of acquired assets to the government.
Some people under-declare so that people may not know that they are very wealthy, so they under-declare. But there's provisions under the law to verify what you have declared. And if we catch that you have under-declared or even over-declared your wealth, you are liable for sanctions under the law.
Politicians and civil servants wield significant control over resource allocation in their countries, as do the citizens who elect them and in effect pay their salaries through paying taxes. Therefore, an asset declaration under public inspection is a way for citizens to ensure that leaders do not abuse their positions of authority for personal benefit. It is also a way to establish importance of integrity and ethics among political classes. Katsime, Smart 24 TV.
Yeah, that's the IGG, the Inspector General of Government, Betty Kamia, trying to make points over there that all government, civil servants and appointed leaders to declare their wealth, to promote accuracy and accountability, and trying to fight corruption over there. And she was like, anybody who's going to dodge this service is going to face some repercussions over there. Some people have been castigating the IGG that sometimes they go for small fish. There's what we call small fish and big fish. So let's assume that this time the big fish are going to be attached. Remember, the person who's going to begin declaring his wealth is going to be the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Taiwa, over there. Now getting to another story here. Government is going to start levy on fish meal export. Remember, the President of Uganda signed on the fisheries and aquaculture bill into a law, and this is going to help the fishermen plus those who are dealing in selling the fish here in Uganda, as well as exporting fish more from Uganda to other countries. Let's have a look at this very story.
The Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill 2021 was presented to Parliament by the government in an effort to streamline and restructure the fisheries sector. The bill aims to repeat the 1951 Colonial Fish Act, which was amended in 2011 to keep up with current issues facing the fishing industry. MPs from the fishing community and the lawmakers have applauded President Museveni for signing the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill into law, calling for full implementation of the act. According to John Osapiri, the fishing business can be used to improve the country's GDP. With the new amendment, a new tax is put on exports of fish maw to foreign nations owing to increased smuggling. A kilo of fish maw costs $1,000, which is a significant amount of money lost by the country because the money is not regulated and is not used for the country's growth.
One, the amendment introduces a levy of 8% of taxes on every amount of fish maw that you're exporting out of Uganda. So imagine you have 100 kilos, they will charge you 8%.
While speaking to the fishermen in Gava, they claimed as this bill is going to affect them since they haven't been sensitized on how to acquire licenses.
Bill eno bagireta nenge kigendero olusi kyangeri kije tufunyemu sente neso si ngeri ya kukoma mututya ebintu byaffe ebiri kuki ebiri ku mazzi kuno
I think this bill was brought just looking at how they are going to benefit out of it, but not how the lake is going to be protected. Because from the way back, before buying engine boats, the fishermen never used to go beyond the breeding grounds. But now, the only problem is about the fishing nets that are substandard, yet it is government supporting this.
Authorities further urge government to sensitize the fishermen about the bill before the implementation of this law, but also cautions the fishermen on embracing the law.
I think before you arrest, you are supposed to sensitize fishermen on the modern fishing standards. That is very key. But also secondly, make it simple for people to access the license. If it's a fishing license, make it simple for them to access the license. Then thirdly, make the nets available and let them be in places that people can easily access. Because if you say you're giving fish nets and then people do not know where to actually find them, then what you'll have is illegal fishing.
As a member of parliament from a fishing community, particularly Lake Victoria, I want to encourage fishermen to embrace this law. We must do a lot of sensitization to train them, because the law is in English. Most of our community are not learned in the English language and may fall on the wrong side of the law because they do not know the law. The ministry should labor to go to teach them. But two, the sections or the contents in the legislation were a collection of the views they gave us on numerous visits we made to them and when we invited them to come to Parliament. So it's a law of theirs.
On May 4th, Parliament passed the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill 2021 that, among others, prescribes a 40 million Ugandan shillings fine or jail sentence of 2 years for those found selling fish without a valid fish trade license. The bill also seeks to replace the Fish Act, Cap 197, proposing government formulates a directorate that will be solely responsible for the management of the sector. The bill also seeks to regulate the exportation of fish products, and there will be a raft of punishments for an exporter or any other person who violates fish quality standards. The bill seeks the fishermen to have standard fishing nets and a license, and 8% tax levy on fish maw export. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV.
So now this is the bill that President has just signed. It's called the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill. Now it has become a law. However, most of the stakeholders and maybe some of the other experts are saying the law is written in English and most of the fishermen are unlearned. So it's going to be very complicated for them to understand this law. But this is going to help them and the entire fishing sector over there. And if government starts levying tax on the fish maw that is exported from Uganda to other countries, then that will be a socio-economic development move. Now, getting to another story here, some communities, some business communities from Uganda here will be traveling to South Africa for a business summit on 27th and 28th of this very month. This summit is trying to widen the trade relationship between the two countries, that's South Africa and Uganda. I met this story and let's have a look at the details. The Private Sector Foundation, in partnership with Ministry of Trade and Cooperatives, are organizing Uganda-South Africa Business Summit, scheduled to take place on February 27th, March 2023 in Pretoria, South Africa. The summit, according to experts, will provide a platform for the private sector, companies and businesses to create new markets and narrow the trade deficit of $287 million between the two countries.
So I wanted to emphasize the fact that when the private sector thrives, or when you do increase markets, which is what we're trying to do here, when it thrives, generally the economy thrives. Because if we're able to open up more markets for our business people, for us to be able to sell our goods and services more out there, it means we will catalyze jobs here in Uganda. We will create more jobs in Uganda.
As you've seen, the trade deficit between the two countries, it's over $287 million. we export just around over $70 million to South Africa. So for me, my goal is to cover and to plug that trade deficit gap. We expect investment to cover that gap. So how can we close it? Ensure that we send finished products to South Africa, export finished products there, get investors from South Africa that support us in the value addition here.
So far, 160 Ugandan businesses have already been registered to participate in the summit, with the highest percentage coming from the sectors of agriculture and agribusiness, tourism and hospitality, professional services, transport and logistics, energy and minerals, as well as ICT. However, acquiring a visa to South Africa is still a hassle, and some Ugandans think that business travels inside African countries should be visa-free.
I am struggling. My visa to South Africa, I have to take a picture, go and get my vaccination card. That whole process just stifles the trade between our countries. So at the leadership level, I think that discussion needs to happen.
It's going to be difficult to keep our borders shut with these little issues called visas. Europe, which fought for 600 years, now you travel from one country to another and you don't know the border. It means that economies force social change. The more we trade with each other, the less and less visa is going to be important. But since it is still here, we take measures like AfCTA to make sure that the visas for those who are exporting, not abagendo kuchara, not the ones who are just visiting, you have to take your beef and talk to the biltong producers. You need time. You can't spend 2 days for an opportunity you want. You need more time. So we'll speak about these issues with South Africa because they too have issues with us.
The Chairman Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development, Audrey Krovogo, further emphasized Uganda's need to grow export revenue, especially in Africa. He requested Ugandan business community traveling to South Africa to conclude deals and attract investors in order to achieve the growth in export revenue by $6 billion over the next 5 years.
The two presidents are meeting, the ministries, institutions of government, and us, the private sector, so that we can see a singular dashboard on trade and opening boundaries and expand our market and work with each other moving forward.
South Africa is one of the Uganda's fastest growing sources of foreign direct investment and is leading in telecommunication, banking, energy and many others. Uganda, on the other hand, exports pharmaceutical products, coffee, vanilla, flowers and vegetables. The South Africa-Uganda Trade Investment Tourism Summit is part of the government intentional initiatives to increase its export quota in the region and international markets. Yeah, so this is the South Africa-Uganda Business Summit that is going to take place in South Africa. This is meant to widen the trade relationship as well as bringing buyers and sellers from both countries along the investors in the value chain for the key export products from Uganda. And this is going to be very, very vital when it comes to trading between the two countries. I mean South Africa and Uganda over here. Now let us go to the Uganda Retirement Regulatory Authority. It's back now talking about saving culture in Uganda and trying to revisit the passions of the people here over here. I saw the Minister Lugolobi trying to make some of the statements when it comes to saving culture in this country. Let's have a look at this very story.
Thank you. We go to this discussion in order to see how we as Ministry of Finance, the supervising authority for UBRA, can closely work together in the effort to stimulate savings into this economy, particularly savings aimed at ensuring that people are socially protected, especially at the time of retirement. But in doing so, the state, the government can utilize these savings for development.
Uganda Vision 2040 builds on the progress to address strategic bottlenecks that have constrained Uganda's socio-economic development. Social security, currently a loop in the country's economy, has prompted the Retirement Benefits Authority, RUBRA, to push for gross national savings improvement from 14.5% to about 35% of GDP by 2040, despite the setbacks to execute such a plan due to financing challenges.
The thing we get is not all that much. I think our strategic plan was very ambitious. I think on average we had our budgetary plan for strategic plan of between 16 to 20 billion annually. But for the last 2-3 years, we've only been getting 13.7 billion, around 14. So that is short of our expectation. And subsequently, that has affected our capacity to employ. So we are working at, I think 60%, slightly less than 60% capacity in terms of staffing. So we would have loved to employ more people, but we can't because of financial resources.
The efforts extended to ensure cohesion with the Ministry of Finance proposes the realization to build capacity of the Benefits Authority and increase the visibility so that employees embrace the need to save.
Yeah, of course, it is unimaginable to have a regulator being weaker than the agencies they regulate. So you need to see a strong regulator, especially when compared with those people that they are regulating. They should not appear to be so weak financially, beggars and things like that. So it's really important that since we are talking about fund management, that the regulator must be strong enough, to be able to speak with strength when he has the capacity. You should not go in rags, to regulate a stronger agency like NSSF.
The employee contribution crisis and the security fund transparency was partly illustrate the limits. A total of 420 cases of defaulting employers have been forwarded to the Labour Ministry. 213 of the defaulters have been dragged to various magistrate courts across the country, locking up to 200 billion shillings, and hefty penalties are now among the considered remedies.
Those entities that are not remitting actually are breaking the law, and they can be charged for doing that. So it requires a requirement that once you have deducted a member's money from his salary, that you remit that money to the fund, where that particular person is contributing. So it's a requirement under the law. And breaches have got to be punished. There are sanctions when you fail to do that. So I think the enforcement agencies can actually enforce those laws.
RUBRA Board Chairman Julius Vigirwa further reveals dedication to ensure growth of social security through improved savings and funds protection in a manner that will attract involvement that's been currently undermined by the NSSF investigations into fund mismanagement.
Contributions to NSSF is mandatory. And if you are not complying to that, you're out of the law. You're supposed to be reprimanded. Are there efforts to enforce that? Yes. But how do we know? We have to know from members, the employees who whistleblow to us. Many of these things have happened without us knowing. For those that we've known, we've been able to reach out to the employers who are not honoring the obligations, and we've seen a positive response. And our numbers, if you look at the reporting you've seen, unremitted contributions have significantly reduced from as high as, I think, 30 billion around 30 billion to around 15, less than 10 billion now. So,
despite the challenges which we have, especially right now with NSSF, as a board, we are looking at how we have journeyed from. We believe there are some improvements given regulations which are in place. But there is a lot more to be done, especially just like you have been seeing in media reports about corruption, political interference, and all those factors. So as a regulator, we have to step in.
The annual sector revelations, for example, in 2020, indicate solid performance in both operational and financial success despite COVID-19 pandemic and related restrictions on the economic activity. Total sector assets increased by 16.4% from 13 trillion shillings in 2019 to 15.4 trillion shillings, accounting for 11.1% of gross domestic product compared to 10.3% in 2019. Ronana Habwes, Man 24 TV.
Smart 24, driving business.
Ebiseera by'okuzaayo abaana mu masomero tebiteekwa kukaluubiriza n'akatono. Eno kusimba nnyiriri mpanvu kano kalipagano ka bidduka. Simanya kuzunga na banka siripsi. Kati osobola okusasula school fees z'omwana wo ate n'okola n'ebirala ntoko ku ssimu ye ey'omu ngalo. Ekikola kyangu nnyo. Nyiga bunyizi *165*8 ogoberera ebikulagiriddwa oba okozese app ya MTN Momo. Ate kati okola ki olwaleero? MTN Mobile Money Uganda Limited erungamizibwa banka enkulu eya Uganda.
Because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Why? Obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Yamunange, anti your TV enkolera.
Enjoy a new world of entertainment with over 80 TV and radio channels, plus movies from wherever you are. Download the GOTV Channels app from your app store and enjoy 30 days of free streaming with MTN.
GOTV Channels.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Smart 24, driving business.
Now, URSB has warned against copyright infringement, and URSB is saying is trying to protect the rights of the composer and some other musicians. On several occasions have been accessing their music without paying anything, and that's what URSB is saying, that this time it's going to be hard on them and people may end up in jail. That's according to the URSB Registrar General, Mase Kainowisho. Let us have more of this very story. The Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act of 2006, unlike the former law, which is civil in nature, seeks to protect all artists and agents who sign contracts with artists and pay an agreed-upon sum amount of money to them, so that they can then sell those artists' music to the public. According to Mercy Kanyuvisho, the Registrar General of the Uganda Registration Service Bureau, there are loopholes in the current law as well as implementation issues that they are seeking to solve in order to achieve some levels of commercialization.
You don't just wake up because you're talented and you replay somebody's song. You have to seek permission because, for example, copyright lasts the life of the person, of the creator, from the date of creation. For example, if I sang a song now or wrote a book now, I will have copyright from today up to the time I die at 100 years. Then after that death, then you count 50 years, even from death. So copyright is like for a lifetime. And I would like to encourage all artists, all musicians, all performers, all producers and managers, before you run anyone's song, especially the old songs for the old celebrities.
The copyright law, if implemented by government, will benefit the artists who claim they do not substantially benefit from their work. Emmanuel Mulondo, the founding chairman of Uganda Talents Managers Association, UTAMA, the copyright law has not been popularized, and he emphasized the need to have a fully-fledged body to manage the copyright.
First of all, they said we are disorganized, but now we are even more organized than government under the structures that I will show you. Then two, it's their duty. It's within their mandate, because they take everybody ukuli popularizing and take it both the infringers and the rights owners. It's their duty to judge because the sector of Ujima is characterized by almost 80% informal people. We are trying our level best to collect our tours in our government. They are part of government. Let them also ask for budgets to have this law at least in this financial year. It can come of July 2023. They can be popularized.
We are the National Intellectual Property Office, the National Copyright Information Center. We are the coordinators of the National Intellectual Property Policy. You have to approach us, you have to come to us so that we protect you.
However, the majority of the artists in the country are known to be ignorant of their rights due to lack of awareness.
Reach out to us and we give you the right information. But what usually happens is that these people, their rights are infringed. You just see like a simple post on social media, but reach out to us because we can't intervene before. So for us, our mandate as URSP, we shall give you the information. But at the end of the day, you, the owners of these IPs, reach out for the support.
And in some countries, unfortunately, intellectual properties are not respected. And this will ruin the economy. So that's why we are trying to support these activities, and we work together with WIPO and IPO so that each country has a great chance in science, technology, medicine, music also.
Those who sell music illegally may now find themselves in court, where they might be ordered to pay damages to the artist as well as be required to destroy any illegally obtained music in their possession. The new law also protects the artist's work 50 years after their death. Getting to another story here, the Public Procurement Disposal of Public Assets Authority has been rebuked by suppliers on allegations of shadow work, what you call shabby work, and the default of not doing good when it comes to doing their work. Our reporter Ronan Hawe was with them over there, and let's have what she had to compile for us.
The Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, the principal regulatory body for public procurement, has come under fire as suppliers at the National Suppliers Forum castigated it over delayed payments and shoddiness in the bidding process believed to have affected their businesses.
Talked about contractors who are paid when they have not finished the work. Is he really concerned about contractors who have finished the work and are not paid? Because this is what is murdering, I can put murdering in quotes, our suppliers. I don't know whether the ministry is bothered or anybody is concerned about suppliers who are getting out of business because they have supplied government and they are not paid.
Then we have also had issues where they issue maybe a contract in January, but we have to wait for the payment to come out in June. So the delay of works that you talked about is because I cannot put my funds there, complete a job where I know I will be paid in June. It's better I start on it in May and complete by June, then I receive my payment.
Government's electronic procurement portal, EGP, has as well been criticized as inefficient, and further grievances cited with the authorities' planning believed to continuously block suppliers in the developed industry from participation.
We have a problem of procurement planning. That is why we cannot even be paid. You get a procurement entity, they design the document, they do the evaluation, they award the contract.
KCCA partly affirms the grievances and underlying factors such as budget cuts, encourages the Ministry of Finance to address the matter effectively.
We plan with budgets, but really, as Ms. Commissioner, my senior, is based on a quarterly basis, especially for government of Uganda funds. And of recent, we've experienced a very big challenge. We've even budget cuts on contracts which have already been signed. So I think you raise this to the PSST. It's a reality. We shall not really deny it or play around it. You will see.
Government has never failed to pay, but government may delay to pay.
The Private Sector Foundation recognizes the conflict and announces a catalytic fund to help some of these suppliers access finances, match the retaliation of PPDA.
Our UNAPSEC and you suppliers should also ask private sector to advocate for you so that you get lower rates on the advance payment and the money you borrow for construction.
Many local businesses are not accessing tenders and bids because of structural weaknesses. Again, bureaucracies, corruption, weaknesses, delays in payments, etc., etc. So we decided to put money, and we were supported by different development partners, to create a forum where both government and private sector meet to discuss issues that are affecting, impacting, and actually making it difficult for them to compete and access tenders.
How can we do contracting, execute projects in government without compromising the future benefits of our citizens? That is specifically incorporating environment and social safeguards in contracting processes.
With all the deliberation from the forum, one can only hope that there is an enhanced stakeholder engagement for better procurement outcomes. Rona Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV.
Yeah, that's the National Suppliers Forum that happened over there, trying to attack this public procurement, disposal of public assets authority that is not doing very well when it comes to doing their work. They say that there's some allegations of shabby work. They're not doing well when it comes to that very point. Now, getting to another story, stakeholders in the coffee production also met over the weekend and strategize and spur how they can improve on value addition on coffee. Our reporter was on ground and engaged with these coffee farmers and some of the stakeholders. Let us have a look at this very story.
They argued that there is need to shun the rudimentary coffee production methods that have hindered the African global coffee output and espouse better scientific methods of production, like the use of machinery, fertilizers, technology that could lead to enhanced yields. Statistics from International Coffee Organization indicate that Uganda, in spite of being Africa's largest coffee exporter, registered a shortfall in coffee exports. Cumulative exports from January to December amounted to 5.63 million bags compared to 6.77 million bags in 2021. A 20.25% decrease driven by drought, the industry lobby said in its latest report.
Coffee industry generates, by last coffee year, $460 billion. The coffee producing countries combined, earned an average of $25 billion. Now, that is about 5% of the global value. That is too low. And when we say all producer countries combined, it includes Brazil and Colombia. Uganda and the rest. Okay, so that is too low. 5% is too low.
However, statistics indicate that other producing countries in Africa like Ivory Coast, Kenya, Tanzania registered better output than Uganda. The 1.14 million bags production deficit saw Uganda lagging behind her African competitors, with Ivory Coast, Kenya and Tanzania a 69.4%, 33.2% and 18.6% increase respectively. Basing on such a downward production trend, stakeholders argue that there is need for an institutional framework to transform the coffee sector to a level it envisions.
Within the economy, we are also looking at how we can improve on research, on managing the diseases that are affecting the crop, and how we can also improve on the value addition in the whole value chain, so that this can expand the job opportunities. And you have had the president raising a few issues on how we can help this sector perform better.
Further research has indicated that Africa's coffee production potential has also been hindered by poor socio-economic development issues, especially limited funding from government.
These farm organizations and cooperatives. Number 3, we have looked at the necessary investment and financing that is required to drive coffee value addition. Okay, what resources do we need in terms of funding, government funding the sector?
In spite of all these challenges, the former Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Victoria Sechitoleko, has urged stakeholders in the sector to use the available funds more wisely instead of continuously lamenting about the limited funding.
In life, it is very difficult to say I have enough money. In fact, there are very few people who I have met who have said they have enough money. For me, what is important is what are you doing with what you have? Because like right now, the sun, the drought, the coffee is suffering all that, but what are you doing in order to maintain that? How much money do you need? Because, for example, when you go to most parts of Uganda and Ankole, they have actually mulched their coffee so well. They have been growing these trees, so they have made a microcosm of their own.
There are also concerns that African producers of the beans don't add their fair share in the global value chain, sparking agitation for processing capacity.
Than the middlemen. And I think these are the areas we're also discussing, and the resolutions are there.
Even with the modest growth output registered by countries like Ethiopia, Uganda and Tanzania in the last decade, higher costs as well as use of fertilizer and bad weather are conniving to deny the continent productivity levels last seen in the 90s, even as the world supply deficit keeps growing. Ronana Habwe, Smart 24 TV.
Smart 24, driving business.
What if you could boost your most loved entertainment?
We're up in the ante.
Upgrade your DSTV package and we'll boost you to the next higher package at no extra cost. If you're on Access and step up to Family, you get boosted to Compact.
You know what I mean.
If you're on Family, step up to Compact and we'll boost you to Compact Plus.
That's an absolute ripper.
And if you're on Compact, step up to Compact Plus. You'll get boosted to Premium.
It's gonna be lit.
Step up and we'll boost you even higher at no extra charge with DSTV.
Luxury redefined at Seasan Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy, exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at CSUN Hotel. So visit today at Plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. CSUN Hotels, luxury redefined.
Smart 24, driving business.
Now getting to another story here, we're saying there's an effort made by the PSST, that's the Permanent Secretary to the Treasury from the Minister of Finance, that's Ramadan Ngobi, trying to say that we are going to have, that Uganda government is going to have some of the budget cuts. These cuts are to make sure that they reduce on luxuries and some money that is being released, and they're not, the return on investment on that money is not that heavy. And they're trying to make sure that we lower down the appetite of going for a loan in other countries or from other countries. A reporter had this very story, and let us see what she compiled for us.
Domenico Tucchetti.
According to the previously released budget call circular, the government expects to save up to 108.5 billion shillings from the prohibition on international travel, workshops and other non-essential expenses. The nation is making these budget cuts in an effort to cut back on borrowing in order to lessen the nation's steadily rising debt burden. This action is anticipated to send a strong signal to investors and other stakeholders about Uganda's commitment to fiscal restraint and sustainable economic growth, particularly considering Uganda is still a developing country as investors are the core of its growth.
It's because of government deliberate policy. We took a deliberate policy to reduce domestic borrowing and also to ensure that we support the private sector to get money at relatively lower interest rates.
The most recent credit rating from Fitch was B+ with a stable outlook, while the most recent credit rating from Moody's was B2 with a poor outlook for Uganda. As a result, the decision to reduce the budget will probably affect Uganda's credit ratings by lowering borrowing. A nation with a strong credit rating makes it easy for the government to borrow money, and for Uganda's growing economy, a strong credit rating is essential for the future and manageable government borrowing.
Given the fact that also our budget is largely funded by foreign donations and borrowing. So I think cutting government expenditure, especially on those luxurious travels and movements, for me it's a good move, it's a good decision towards the positive direction.
On top of widening the tax base, we also need to see that we create new areas of interest as we close avenues of expenditure. If we did not do that, our economy role is dependent on borrowing, and which borrowing cannot easily reduce. Some 7-8 years, we had even reached a domestic collection of 75%. Our budget was sustainable by over 75%.
Reduced government spending will free up more money for infrastructure developments and other crucial areas of the economy. This is especially significant considering Uganda's status as a developing nation, where investment in infrastructure and other important areas are essential for the country's economic progress.
But the problem we have, the planning authority, they are sitting in a building, in offices, without to get a knowledge, either idea from those people they are going to plan for them.
While the move may be challenging in the short term, it is expected to have several positive effects on the country's economy in the long run. Bronya Katsime, Smart 24 TV.
Now we're getting to our very last story here, where Uganda Revenue Authority met with its suppliers of they are trying to enhance integrity and compliance. This story, I did it at Uganda Revenue Authority offices here in Nakawa. Let us have what had to happen over there and what the suppliers had to say that need to be sorted. As it approaches 60% of the budget designated for procurement of goods and services, the Uganda Revenue Authority has today engaged with its service suppliers to improve integrity and compliance. Suppliers believe that there are some shortcomings regarding the payment of tax, as highlighted by Derek Luwalira, who happens to be the Uganda Revenue Authority supplier.
Few challenges here and there, especially when it comes to taxes. Some of the projects we handle are deemed to be paid taxes from government. So there has to be a link between government and URA, because when government is paying you without VAT, URA is supposed to know. So when you sign a contract with government, there has to be a link. That's a very huge challenges we have faced, especially when it comes to our, those VAT are our operational costs. So when we don't get money from URA, when we don't get money from government and URA as expecting the taxes to come through, there has to be an interlink between government and when it comes to taxes. So,
in addition to formalizing and being tax compliant, Uganda Revenue Authority says they are looking forward to streamlining their relationship with the suppliers.
Here to discuss, just like in a family, when you have an issue, you don't say my children have a loophole. You call them and say, look, this is how we do things in our house and this is the direction we're going. We'd like you to do A, B, C, and D. And likewise, it's open for them to come to us and tell us, look, these are the issues we're experiencing relating with URA. Please help us address them. And that is why we're here today.
Payment is no longer a hassle with URA. For that one I can testify. As I speak now, I've already been paid for whatever that I've supplied as of yesterday. Okay? So that means there is quite a very big shift, and we want to commend URA for that initiative.
The government set aside a budget for procurement equivalent to 220 billion this financial year, which was intended only for the purchase of goods and services, and Uganda Revenue Authority has used almost 60% of this money. Those have been the stories that made the headlines in our weekly bulletin. Remember to get us on all our social media platforms: Smart24 TV official on Twitter, Smart24 TV Live on YouTube. We're also on GOTV and DSTV, where we're doing business. This is Smart24 TV, where business finally found home. Let's meet again next Sunday on the same TV. Bye-bye.